told that we have one job on this planet, and that job's to be a good citizen. And that belief is easy to assume is true because it sort of fits into our cave person brain conditioning, where we do everything that we possibly can to try and be a good member of the tribe so that we stay safe. And we're conditioned to believe that that an important part of being a good citizen in today's world means taking full responsibility for our health. That's one of our most important jobs, we're told. And it's also assumed that we accept the myth that if we aren't healthy, it was somehow all our own fault. We just weren't doing stuff right. And we're told that we should be constantly protecting our health so that we don't ask for too much help from medical services, so that we don't become like a burden or take more than our fair share or whatever. And even if we happen to be in excellent shape and have the right body type, you still aren't allowed to slack. You're still expected to work damn hard just in case you fuck it up and return to being in the wrong shape again. Now, to meet this goal of good citizenship, we're all given very strict guidelines as to how to get there. But pretty much all of them go completely against our human nature. So you're supposed to purposefully eat less food energy than your body needs. Even though that means that when we do that, our survival instinct kicks in and we immediately, save ourselves subconsciously. We're immediately trying to save ourselves from the famine that we forced. And we're told not to eat too many sweet or salty or fatty foods, even though our brain system, our reward system is hardwired to seek out those tastes and to gorge on them when we find them. And we're told to exercise, even though, like all animals, we're literally designed to do the minimum amount of movement required and instead really enjoy resting and having a nice sit down. And then we wonder why we find it so hard to do the right thing for our health. And we see those people, like the 5% of people who can just do it naturally and easily, most of which normally work in the fitness industry, just to point that out. And we assume that these people represent the correct version of a person, but they don't, because they're actually the abnormal ones who go against human nature. And the advice that they give to the others, 95%, the normal ones of us who don't fit this mold, their advice is always the same: just dig deep and find motivation. But to overcome our flaws, which aren't fucking flaws at all, we are given what I call the human tools of self-control. And that's shame and guilt and willpower and motivation and punishment and restriction. And these are all ways of forcing ourselves to do things that either we don't want to do, or they're ways of making us feel bad for not being able to do them. But the reality is that most of us don't want to eat less and move more, even if the industry is promising that the reward for doing that is a longer life and a thinner figure at the end. Because if we really did want those things, surely we wouldn't have to use force to get there. Now, these tools do have some use, and they are available for us to use to get things done every now and again, or they do work for if we need to do things for a short amount of time. But we all know that they don't work as a long-term strategy to change behaviour. You can't keep forcing yourself to do things forever. Like, we can use discipline or motivation, or shame even, maybe force ourselves to do our taxes, or maybe hitting a big deadline, or to go outside when it's raining. But how would you feel if you had to rely on that force every single day for the rest of your life? That would be fucking horrendous and super stressful, right? But that's what we're told to use. We still look at those tools of self-control as a gold standard way of changing ourselves. Like how we should just choose to use these all the time. But I think that there's a more important, a more key question that we need to ask ourselves is, do we even want to change in the first place? Maybe somewhere, really deep down, somewhere, maybe our soul knows that this promise of like surviving an extra couple of years or getting a little bit smaller just isn't worth all of the force that we'd need to apply to achieve that. And maybe we don't actually believe the lie that our job in life is to live for as long as possible. And maybe our soul doesn't even fucking believe that we have that much control over our lifespan anyway, because we probably don't. So maybe when you can't stop eating Pringles, or like you've been off your couch to 5K training for like the 10th day in a row, maybe your subconscious doesn't believe the lie that it's because you've got no willpower, or that you're too greedy, or any of those other words that our conscious brains say to ourselves, or that other people say to us. Maybe we've got like a deeper sense of knowing. Like maybe right now, each one of us are being everything that you need to be right now for where you're at. Maybe we just don't know why it is that we need to be these people right now, if that makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't like a just admit defeat and give up type attitude. Like, I'm not suggesting that you, like, just throw it all off and never eat a vegetable again and just live on the sofa. Like, instead, I think that maybe we need to consider, like, really consider on a soul type level what's important to us and what we need. And so in the last couple of years, I've started thinking about life a little bit differently. And honestly, it's just changed everything for me. So now, instead of eating and moving to change my body shape, or like doing work just to make a ton of money so that I could buy a big car or a big house, I've reassessed what my soul has been sort of hinting at what it actually wants. And so that's led me to these like current life principles. So right now I live with the knowing that, number one, my worth is not measured by my body shape, by my current health, by my ability to make or spend money, by what I choose to eat or how I choose to move. And I don't assume other people's worth is based on those factors, so why do I hold myself to different standards? Because I shouldn't. And number two, I believe that my one and only job in this world is to be contented and to pass those awesome contented vibes to other living beings and then to the planet itself. Because I think that we're all meant to live and exist in harmony and in flow, and the rest of nature very clearly demonstrates that it thrives not when it's being manipulated and controlled, but when things are just allowed to flow and just allowed to just be. So like I said, those guiding principles genuinely changed everything about the way that I act now. So now I move my body often, and I tend to do it outside because I love being in nature, and I really like the feeling of being able to move easily and with grace and with power. And I also think that movement is in our DNA, and it's what makes us really happy humans. And so this means that I walk, and I enjoy doing a lot of like flow type practices, including things like animal flow, movement meditations. And I do really fun things like kayaking and bike riding when I can. I eat a bunch of fresh food because I love the way that it tastes, and I love the type of energy that it gives me. I eat when I want to eat, and sometimes that means that I eat once a day, and other days all I seem to do is eat. And I know that I would rather spend half an hour cooking something really delicious instead of watching like bullshit soap operas on TV. I eat really tasty, like sugary, fatty foods when I fancy them. Some days it means that I just don't think about eating them at all. On other days, I need to remind myself not to eat too much of them because I know that it makes me feel shit. But other days, feeling shit, I'm totally happy with. It's totally worth it because I just want to eat like 18 Kit Kats. I minimize stress as much as I possibly can, and I make sure that I spend just as much time honoring like my mind and my soul as I do working, and I damn make sure that I get enough sleep each night. And guess what? I rarely have to force myself to do a single one of those things. I would only need force if, say, I decided to take up running, or if I wanted to stick to like a meal plan or calorie counting, because I know that I wouldn't be doing those things to make my life really truly happier on a soul level. I'd only be doing them out of some like vague assumption that it would force a really specific outcome, like either fitness or weight loss. And I know from personal experience that we have very little long-term control over that. And I also remember that being thinner definitely didn't make me happier. In fact, it probably made me a worse person. It probably made my life worse because I was a fucking shallow, horrible asshole when I spent all of my time just concentrating on what I looked like. And so I surrendered, and I'm still working at being better at this whole surrendering thing every day. So as much as I can, I've just stopped trying to force things, and I've stopped fighting against the world as it is, and instead I've learned to accept that things are happening just exactly as they're meant to. Like, I currently weigh more now than I have ever done in the past. I'm the heaviest now that I've ever been. But rather than like berating myself for being a really shit human who couldn't stop eating crisps and drinking shandy when I was in Australia, I trust that my soul and that my true self have been making the exact right decisions for all of myself. So for my body self and for my conscious and subconscious selves. Like, maybe I needed a ton of calories after like years of restriction. And maybe I just felt really safe in the arms of a brand new girlfriend, and I knew that she didn't love me based on my body shape. And maybe I needed to experience being in a larger body than I'm used to so that I had more understanding of what my personal worth means, or what it means to move in a different body. Or maybe I needed to understand how confidence in myself and acceptance of myself, like, it genuinely doesn't come from looking differently. Like, I don't know which one of those it was, and I don't care. Like, I've learnt to trust myself, that I'm always doing the best thing for me, even if I can't see why it is straight away. Now, very clearly, I didn't just fall into this new way of living. Like, I created it really, really carefully. And I did that initially just by bringing awareness to my behaviour, and I just started to notice things. You see, nature, in my opinion, nature isn't wasteful and it doesn't do anything accidentally. And you, as a living person in nature, you also follow those universal rules. And I believe that how your world appears and how you act is a direct representation of your beliefs. So I started noticing what my behaviours taught me about what my beliefs really were. So when I ate a bunch of takeaways, not because I really liked the taste, but because I was just too fucking lazy to cook. Not that I'm suggesting that's only what takeaways are for. Sometimes they are bloody delicious. But I was eating them for a different reason. So what did those reasons say about my beliefs about food and about my worth? When I didn't have time for a walk, what did that say about my perceptions of time, or how much importance I was putting on making money rather than enjoying life? And when I hated my reflection, what did that say about my self-esteem, or what I really believed about differently shaped bodies? So when I drank too much to numb my brain, like, what did that really say about how much that I genuinely wanted to be present? Or what did it say about how safe I felt with my emotions and with no other, like, how safe I felt just sat being present with my emotions as exactly as they are right now? And then I had to make a decision that, did I want those beliefs to form the truth about my world, or did I want something differently? Did I want the world to be different? So now my current beliefs that I'm working on making stronger every day are that I believe that my body deserves to move and that I feel more alive when I do move. I believe that the quality of energy and the thoughts that I have or no, I suppose the quality of the thoughts that I have are directly correlated with the quality of the food that I choose to eat. I also believe that we have a responsibility to act as guardians of the planet. And those beliefs mean that I tend towards making decisions that just align with them, but decisions that just feel right. So this is the point where I'm inviting you now to make some decisions. So how are your current behaviours and beliefs really serving you? And how often do you use the human tools of self-control to get things done? And do you want to live using them forever? Or do you want to get to a place where you can trust yourself to just make the correct decisions for you with no willpower or no shame needed? So stick with the Anti-Fitness Project, and I will continue to show you different and far more contented ways to just be, and I will continue to bring to you different options of different beliefs that you get to choose to have form the truth in your world.